What up, guys? Jay with the Clock here, coming at you guys from Western New York. This is going to be a little bit more of a serious video. Just want to talk about something real quick that happened to me. It was kind of like a sort of a life-changing event, I guess you can call it that. But as you can see, I got some bar-end mirrors. Take off my OEM mirrors because I think it looks a little bit more badass. As in recent videos, I showed you guys how I was just driving around with no mirrors, and then I put them back on just for legal reasons because I don't like getting pulled over. And then I realized that you could put bar-end mirrors on and pretty much had the best of both worlds. So, but I wanted to start this video off by saying, just kind of like a little preface, is that the town that I live in, my father works in law enforcement, and he has been since before I was even born, so over 21 years. And I've looked up to him a lot. And he's kind of been like my role model and all this kind of stuff. He's pretty much made me into the person I am now, which, I'm eternally grateful for that because, I think that I'm like, in my personal life, I think I'm a pretty good person, in my opinion. And I know that's kind of self-centered to say, or, whatever you want to call it, but I believe it's true. But, so last year, before I went on my deployment overseas, I took a New York State corrections exam for, like being a corrections officer and shit. And I took that back in April last year, so over a year ago I took it. And I went to the desert, and before I came home from the desert, I got an email, or I was contacted by one of the senior investigators for New York State, and they said that they wanted me to submit a packet and shit. Like I scored 100 on the test, and I was like ranked like 70 something in the state, which is pretty good in a state of over 18 million people. I was ranked like 70 something, and obviously 18 million people didn't take the test, but New York State's pretty big if you include the city, and Western New York is pretty poppin' too. But so I went to Albany back last year to do like the background and stuff like that, and then I went back the second time to do the psychological evaluation, where they ask you over 1,200 questions on your mental state and shit like that, and what you would do in certain situations, and it's just testing your psychosis, I guess. And then I went to Rochester after that to meet with a criminal psychologist or whatever she was. She works at the prison up in Rochester as a kind of like an inmate psychologist or whatever. So she went over that test with me, any kind of like red flags she asked me about. And so then that was all the way back last year in November. So what was that, like 8 or 9 months ago? And I didn't hear anything else. I was told that in a couple months they'll be in touch with me and let me know what's going on. And the months kind of flew by, and before I knew it, it was already June. So that's like 7 months, and so I just figured that that was it. Like that's the last of it. For some reason I didn't get the job or whatever. But then about 3 or so weeks ago, I got a call from my background investigator saying that I got the job and I can accept the job and go to Albany for the training academy and all this and that. And going back to what I said earlier about my father being law enforcement, I figured that being a corrections officer, it would be like a good moment for him. He'd be all proud of me and shit. And obviously he knows that I've wanted to be law enforcement since I was 5 or 6 years old. I wanted to be a cop so bad, and so this was kind of like my foot in the door, my metaphorical foot in the door to get in law enforcement. And I had all these high hopes and everything, and I wanted to make him proud and shit like that, but at the same time, I didn't want it. And that's the whole topic of this video, is making yourself happy and doing things for yourself. And I didn't want the job for myself. I wanted it because I thought he wanted it. And the only reason he was, you know, pushing me so much is because he thought I wanted it. Because, you know, I wanted to be law enforcement for X amount of years. He just figured that, you know, I wanted to be a corrections officer since, you know, I scored so well on the test, and, you know, I wanted to do this for how long, and et cetera, et cetera. So I took the job, obviously, and you know, I had to quit my civilian job. I had to make special what's the word I'm looking for? Arrangements at the base. I had to make special arrangements for the Air Force that I can go to this academy and, you know, this and that. And I had all these high hopes, and I've talked to a lot of people, and, you know, people were saying, you know, good and bad things about the job. Like, the benefits are great, but, you know, the job itself is kind of shitty because, you know, you're working with fucking criminals all day. You're just a glorified babysitter for people that commit crimes and shit. So, you know, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. You know, it may be a well-paying job, or it has good benefits or whatever, but the job still is a corrections officer. You know, you're in charge of inmates who have broken the law, have been convicted of breaking the law. So I just went to the academy yesterday. I left, and in the back of my head for the last 3 weeks, I kept saying to myself, do I really want this job? And every time I couldn't come up with a sure 100% yes. I could not tell myself that. There was always a but, you know. I do want it, but, or I do want it because it wasn't just a straight yes. It wasn't because, you know, I wanted this job. It's because I wanted to make others proud of me and shit. And so I went yesterday, and obviously I've been to basic training. I've been to boot camp before, and, you know, I've gotten through that fine and whatnot. And I kept telling myself, I'm like, this can't be any harder than basic training for the military, right? But when I got there, I realized that while I'm physically and, you know, I'm physically there and, you know, physically ready to go through the academy, and it, you know, it's not that much harder. It's just different, you know. It's hard in a different respect because it's not as strict as the military. It's not nearly as strict as the military, but because it's not as strict, the rules are open for interpretation. And if you interpret the rules wrong, or if you interpret the standards wrong, then, you know, you get fucked for it, pretty much. And in the military, it's straightforward. You do it this way, you do this way, that way, and everything is, you know, apples to apples. Everything is how it should be. 2 + 2 is 4, you know what I mean? But in corrections, it's all interpretation. It's how, as far as I'm concerned, you know, I was only there for one night, but as far as I'm concerned, it was a very loose interpretation of what was being said to you, and you kind of had to make your own results of that or whatever. And so this morning, or last night, we had to move our cars, and, you know, you're not allowed to have your phone on you since it's technically a corrections facility, and there's inmates there that are working the grounds and, like, cleaning and stuff like that. So there's inmates around you, and you're not supposed to have your phone or anything like that. And that's not a big deal. Like I said, I've been to fucking basic training. I've been away from it. I've been, you know, totally abandoned, pretty much, as far as technology goes. And that wasn't a big deal, but the big deal is that I've already been through the game, and everyone talks about what the game is, and the game is you're always wrong, pretty much. Like even if you say 2 + 2 is 4, you're wrong about that. There's no right answer in the game, and that the game could be anything. It could be basic training. It could be some sort of law enforcement academy, whatever. It's just the fucking game of being in that paramilitary type atmosphere, and the standards that are set upon you are only right until or are only right once you've gone so far in the training. Like once you've gone halfway through, then you're right about things, and then you start getting it. You know what I mean? But I've already been through the game, and obviously, not everyone that goes there has the military training, so they're just learning it. So it's basically as if I've been in the military for over 4 years, and it's almost as if I was thrown right back to week 1 of basic training, and I had to redo everything with the knowledge that I have now. And I could just tell that it was going to get hairy real quick because people didn't understand how to play the game. And that's why I left, is because I've been through all this before, and I feel like I was too stubborn to go back and play the game once more. And I didn't feel like I'd be very good at, going back to basics and relearning everything. And I also left because I realized that I did this whole process just to make other people proud of me, and it wasn't because I wanted to do it. It's not because since I was 5 or 6 years old I wanted to be a corrections officer. It's because since I was 5 or 6 years old I looked up to my father, and I realized that I just wanted to pretty much emulate him by any means possible. But so I left, and I'm back home now. I was at the academy about 24 hours ago. I was standing in line to get my fucking shit all squared away, and it was just a fucking shit show. So I guess the moral of this motovlog is just whatever you do in life, whatever you think is the right answer, make it the right answer because it's the right answer for you, not because other people want you to follow a certain path in life. You should do things because you want to do them and you want to make yourself happy. You got to be pretty selfish in life sometimes. If it means that it's a career that you're going to have for 20 plus years, you got to have to find it in your soul that you like it, and not because person X or Z likes it for you. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? But I just wanted to make this motovlog while it's still fresh in my head, because I've been pretty emotional about this all day today, and I'm talking to a lot of people about it. But I'm just glad that I have the family that I have and the friends that I have, and etc. All the people that I know in my life are retardedly supportive about it, and I mean that in a good way. And I honestly 100% would not be here where I am if it wasn't for them. So I owe them my life pretty much. And that was also another reason that I felt like such a failure today, is because I kind of was telling everyone that I was going to be this corrections officer and I was going to kick ass, but once I got there, it was a little bit of a different story, because I had one idea in my head and it turned out to be something totally different. And when I put those two stories together, I realized that it didn't add up to what I wanted my future to be. So I had to make a very, very, very tough decision to quit. And I 100% will admit today that I quit the New York State Corrections Academy. And while I do feel like a quitter or a failure or whatever, I'm not killing myself over it, because I know that I did it because it was the right decision for me, not because I couldn't do it or because XYZ. It's because I realized that I went for the wrong reasons, and I tried being somebody that I thought others wanted me to be, when in reality I talked to my dad, and in reality he told me that the only reason he wanted me to go is because he thought I wanted it. And he thought I wanted it because I've wanted to be in law enforcement for so long, and he told me not to worry about it, and I quit. He said that, you know, it's not the end of the world and etc. But I just wanted to make this video for you guys because I know that, you know, nobody has the right answer in life, and you know, every day that goes by I realize that I don't know everything, and you know, I'm just a fucking human being, and I just hope that everyone out there is, you know, understanding that just do what makes you happy. Don't try and make others proud at your expense. But with that, I guess I'm going to end this motovlog. Go ahead and like the video, leave me a comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I'm gonna have some links below. You guys check them out, like my Instagram and Snapchat and all that shit. But hope you guys like the video. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace out.